I built up a $4 million a year concrete company by age 30, but before that I had 2 failed businesses. The main differences are the skills that I've learned along the way that I would use now to grow a small contracting business into a $3 to $4 million company. So we will be breaking down what to do to get to a $1 million company, then how that grows to a $2 million company, and then how to take that $2 million company and grow it to $4 million plus. So when your schedule is fully busy and you really don't know how to add to your plate, it's time to switch your mindset, which is going to come in 2 different variations. So the very first thing that we have to realize is what actually caused you to start your business might actually be your downfall. So when you're starting a business, you had to take a huge leap of faith just to get started in your business, and you had to take massive action. But the thing is, once you already do that and you're already busy enough, you actually have to change a little bit. And the reason why this works in the very beginning is you have all the time in the world, right? Because you just started a brand new business. That's what you're going to dedicate all of your time to, but you really have no money. So what you're doing is you're exchanging your time for money. But eventually you grow a business to a certain size, and now you have no time, and maybe you have a little bit of money. And so now here's the thing, a lot of people will actually just get stuck right in this very second. They're like, oh man, Tyler, I really can't do anymore. I'm already doing everything. And that's the exact problem. If you're doing everything in your business, you have to switch your mindset first and foremost to now it's not about like, what more can I do? But what can I actually take off my plate so I can do more of the higher value skills? So what they call that is just buying back your time. You can't just keep trading your time for money. Eventually you have to trade your money and buy back some of your time. So what you need to do in the very beginning is find out what you're currently spending your most time on, systematize it first. So learn all the systems, basically like write down everything that you're actually doing in your day-to-day in that exact role, systematize it, hire someone, and then train them to do that exact thing, which we're going to cover in today's video on exactly in what order I would do that if I were you. And the second thing that you can do when you're already maxed out with your time is to make your company more money with your existing time. And so what you can actually do in this scenario, if you have to, is you could raise your prices, right? So essentially, if you could just raise your prices and make more money with your existing time, you could increase your income. And from that extra income, you could then buy back your time that way. You could take on better jobs, you could buy equipment, and most of all, how you do most of this is through marketing, right? Because at the end of the day, if you're not getting enough leads and the right quality of leads, then no matter what else you could do, it's really not going to matter. So once you make that mindset shift and you get into the shift of making your business more money from the same amount of time, now it's time to actually start hiring out some of the roles. And so here are the things that I would actually hire out first. Number 1 is bookkeeping. I meet so many business owners and they try to do all their bookkeeping. One, they're probably not good at it. So not only is it not getting done correctly, but it's also taking up a lot of time. You could hire bookkeepers for as low as like $300 to $500 a month who do a pretty dang good job. Number 2 is marketing. That's just a really high value skill. And it's so important that in order to do it right, you have to invest so much time and energy into really nailing that. So for most companies, it makes more sense just to partner with someone who already knows that and who can take care of that. Because at the end of the day, none of what I'm about to teach you in this video is going to matter if you're not getting enough leads and of the right type of leads. And then number 3 are field staff. You don't need to be the one doing every single thing in the field for your business. So when you first start, you might do that, right? You might be the estimator, you might be the project manager, you might be the one actually doing the work, and that's totally fine. But to get to $1 million a year, in my opinion, one of the first things that you should hire out is having people actually do the actual field work for you. And you could still be in the field, but you should be more of a manager and a helper, not the main laborer behind your business. So with all that being said, to get to $1 million, you could easily estimate, manage, run the schedule. You could do invoicing by yourself, and all you really need is 3 to 4 field staff to get to $1 million a year. In July, my company did $360,000 in revenue, and all we had was 11 field staff. That's $33,000 in revenue per field member per month. That means that each person that I have in the field in my company brings in roughly $400,000 a year. So in reality, to hit $1 million, you need 2 to 4 people, depending on how high your prices are, which obviously the higher your prices, then the more revenue per employee that you can really get. So what does your company look like at this level? You're on the top of the business running everything. You have 3 to 4 field staff. So you're doing the things like estimating, scheduling, running the field, even though you're not actually doing most of the labor. And then you have agencies over here on the right, things like bookkeeping, accounting, marketing, insurance. Those are going to be all your vendors who you're going to hire out to help you on your behalf, but aren't employees. And now once we got to $1 million, let's look at what it's going to take to get from $1 million to $2 million. Before we do that, I want to thank our sponsor in today's video, which is actually me here at Contractor CEO. Contractor CEO is by far the best marketing agency for other contractors because it's run by me. And a lot of marketing agencies, they don't really understand what it actually takes to grow and run a business themselves. And so that's why Contractor CEO brings both worlds together. the marketing, the sales, pricing, the consulting, information, all of it together, all in one house. So if you're interested in getting our help to grow your business, click the link down below, fill out your information, and schedule a call with me on my calendar. So right now at this stage in your business, you're probably spending most of your time estimating, selling projects, managing the crew, running the schedule, invoicing, etc. So at this stage, what I did to grow my business from 1 million to 2 million is I made 2 key hires and I raised my marketing budget. So the very first role that I actually hired was an office manager. And that office manager, what they actually did for me, one, they started answering my phone calls when they started coming in. So now I didn't have to be pinned to the phone. If anyone ever started coming in, our office manager would just take all the calls and direct them. She would also start scheduling out all the work. So as I sold work, she would actually schedule our crews, so I wasn't the one doing that. On top of that, not only was she answering calls, but she was even starting to pre-screen some leads for me. So not only was she taking some time off my plate, but even from the leads that I was getting, I was actually able to sell a lot more just because she was already doing some of the work there. And then secondly, once I got my office manager established, then I actually hired my first salesperson. And then my salesperson basically took over everything that I was doing on the sales side. So instead of me taking the lead from the office manager, now she was giving the lead to my salesperson. But there was a couple things that I had to have in place before I hired a salesperson. So as the owner, obviously you probably know a lot about what things cost, and it's a little bit difficult to kind of get that out of your head and onto paper. So what you have to do is develop a system for pricing your jobs that is very repeatable. So you have to have a good idea on your numbers. And then secondly is you have to have tons of leads. If you're going to be hiring a salesperson, you better be able to keep them busy and have tons of leads so that they could actually work a full-time job. And then lastly, a really quick tip is I actually paid my salesman a very small salary, and then the rest was actually paid commission on a sliding scale based on how profitable they sold the project. I wanted to make sure that my salesman was actually motivated to not only sell projects, but sell high-priced projects. That way, we're not going to go all the way back to where we were in the very beginning, which is just selling a bunch of work but not making a bunch of money. So that is how I blended the two together. And then obviously too, in order to fulfill the $2 million in revenue, I had to double the amount of field staff. So here's what the company looks like now. You as the owner, and your job is to manage the salesperson, manage the office manager, and you're also managing the 2 crews. And that brings us into phase 3, which is growing from $2 million to $4 million. And at this point, your role is growing from more of an operator to an owner. You should start working on developing SOPs because at this point, it's a lot harder for you to kind of keep managing the business all by yourself. And as you hire people, it's a little hard to keep everyone organized. So you as the owner is going to switch from more of a doer to more of a systems creator. So you're going to be doing SOPs for your salesman, for your office manager, for your crew, etc. Because as you start growing, you need everyone to be on the same page and following all the systems and all the work that you've built up as the owner over the past couple of years. So to double your work, you also have to double your crews, right? So now we're going to go from about 2 crews to about 4 crews. And on top of that, you want to raise your marketing budget because again, you're going to need even more leads. And what I found in my business is you have one salesman doing about $2 million. To get to $4 million, I had to hire a second salesman. A good rule of thumb, at least in my business here in concrete/landscaping, is a salesman can produce about $2 million a year in sales. But when I was growing from $2 million to $4 million, instead of hiring another office manager because I already had one, what I actually did is I took a couple of her smaller roles away from her. So she was doing things like posting social media. She was pre-screening leads. She was doing a couple things. She even started doing some bookkeeping, but actually I hired out a couple other roles, mainly through my agency partners, like the marketing company, my accountants, etc., to get things off her plate so I didn't have to hire a whole other person working the office, so I didn't have to hire another office person. So I doubled the crews, I hired a salesperson, and my last really big key hire was hiring a project manager. Because as you've noticed before, as we were kind of growing, one of the big things that I was still doing as the owner was I was running the crews. Well, at a certain point, now we had 4 crews. Now it's time to actually hire someone to watch your crews for you. So what they would do is actually they're going to go get materials for your crew if they have to. They line all the guys up. They correspond with the customers when they're actually there on the project. They do warranty calls, etc. So at that point, your business is basically hired out, right? You already have someone managing the office. You have 2 salespeople who are making your sales for you. You have someone running your crews. And you're probably thinking at this point, well, man, what else do you even have to do? And this part is optional, but I thought this was a really big key hire for me in my business was I hired an operations manager. Because if we look at the way things are on this graphic, so now it was you at the top and you're managing the office manager, the 2 salespeople, the project manager, and now really the only other thing that you could really hire out is the operations manager, which I did in my business, and that made a huge deal. Number one is the operations manager. They kind of knew all of the roles, right? They knew how to sell, they knew how to manage, they knew how to do the office. So that way, if anyone called in, say for instance, I had a salesperson that they went on vacation for a week, now all of a sudden I have someone to come and step into that role. And secondly, is even though you have all those people who are managing their individual tasks, you still need someone to manage them. So it's either going to be you or a operations manager, and that's what I chose in my business. And at that point, you truly are the owner of a business. You're no longer a business operator. You basically own an asset that's producing income for you, and you can kind of decide how you want to expand from there. You could either expand geographically, you could keep growing revenue, or you could basically just sit back on the asset that you've created. And obviously, if anyone ever quits, you might have to jump in and help hire. But for the most part, you're pretty dang hands off. And what's past that, I really don't know because I'm not there yet, but like this video and subscribe to my channel and I'll make sure that I fill you in along the way.